okay, we need to talk about the manosphere. And I need you guys to clarify some stuff for me. So obviously over the last several months, YouTube has decided that I'm manosphere adjacent content. Mostly it seems like they're pushing me toward MGTOW, men going their own way kind of audiences. However, I'm getting different people. I have a few from the pickup artists, right? The hustler crowd, even some of the bag chasers, which aren't necessarily manosphere, but you know, some hustler groups are kind of coming in, as well as, you know, some conservative men, some Christian men. So it's kind of like this mixture of men who might be considered in the manosphere. Some of them more extreme than others. Some of you have been very nice to me. Some of you have not been so nice to me, and you know that's fine. I'm online publicly, so you know that is what it is. What I really wanted to discuss is all the discussion around the manosphere that really seems to be missing the point. And I think that's really actually dangerous, the way that some of them have picked up recently because of the documentary of Theroux. I'm not a huge fan. I'm going to say up front, I'm not a fan of most of his documentaries. I really did enjoy My Scientology movie. He's definitely, you know, great at what he does. He definitely has a point of view. That's what they call agenda. It's bias. Every documentary in general, unless you're like Ken Burns and really using archival, but like I don't know, nowadays documentaries aren't Ken Burns, right? So most documentaries they're biased. I mean that they want you to come out with a certain point of view, and so I don't get mad at someone for that. Michael Moore has very good documentaries that are biased. They want you to think a certain way, and I don't always agree with what he says, but I like the way that he puts things together, and he is telling his point of view very clearly. And you know, as long as you're watching documentaries and understanding this is a propaganda, this is an agenda, this is a person, and a lot of times it's more of an op-ed. It's hard for journalism to be really unbiased. And that being said, Theroux tends to do more progressive kind of, I mean, you can tell that he's more progressive. At the same time, he does try to put on different voices. He doesn't silence people, but he does edit so that you can see exactly what, you know, the problems might be. He doesn't seem to make people say stuff, as far as what I can tell. I don't know. This is just allegedly. This is from what I can see by being an audience, not like knowing him. So when you watch this movie, obviously he chose manosphere in the toxic masculinity way, but also in the feminist biased narrative. So the problem that it's causing for women, and even for men, sure. It's basically, you know, showing these men, letting them show themselves. And honestly, it's not much different than what you might see on their channels, but these are different audiences absorbing this content, and they're like, oh, because they're not followers of these people. What I feel like was missed in this documentary and in most of the things that I've read about it on all sides of the fence is that it calls the manosphere a loose network of communities. Yeah, because the MGTOW people are not the same as the pickup artists, the PUA people, right? There are different groups, and that's basically like saying that every Christian just agrees with the other denomination. Like, they don't. There are many denominations who don't think certain denominations are Christian even. I'm not even going to get into that. I'm just saying, just because you're in kind of an area doesn't mean that you're agreeing with every single aspect of this. So to blanket these group of like these four major influencers in a manosphere space, especially in the looks maxing and the pickup culture, pickup artist culture, those groups of men, and then say this is the entire red pill idea or the entire manosphere in general and every loose network of communities, because there seems to be, when I'm interacting with some of the people in it who comment on my stuff and try to help educate me on certain areas of that belief system and that lifestyle that I don't know of, they've been kind, and they haven't expressed certain aspects that this group of people are doing. Some of them do discuss like looks maxing and those things as the toxic side of something that actually has really intelligent, logical roots. The red pill roots. So the thing that I really thought was lacking from everything that I read, I was reading all about it, and I tried to start this video so many times. None of them talk about the start, the male liberation, men's liberation movement of the 60s and 70s. Isn't that where the red pill movement started, where the manosphere started? Yes, it has progressed into a digital environment that is detrimental, but none of them are actually discussing the digital environment that created these anti-male or anti-female communities. We see the symptoms and everyone's talking about the symptoms, which, okay, valid, but then they're not going deeper. And that's what I found with this documentary was so lacking. It showed these guys that basically it made them look like losers. I don't know. I found like it was, I agreed with some of these writers. It was like I was watching Korn. Switch that around. YouTube has rules, so I can't say that word, but Korn. It's kind of, some of the stuff you can see is gross, but at the same time, you could tell they were playing for a camera, and that's kind of what you do, because there's a difference between someone who actually is adopting these beliefs and lifestyles to actually change their lives and try to fix their mindsets or do whatever they're doing with it, and someone who's trying to monetize. Now, the people who are monetizing, yes, they are predators, many of them, and they are, and not all of them, but many of them are predators, and especially nowadays in the environment. That's the point, the social media environment that's creating the predators for these communities, okay, that are taking these into extreme ways, that are not understanding, though, that there are people following these people, and they're not stupid. So that brings us to the point. Why did none of these actually address the root causes? Now, let me go through a few. Like, we have one, unwomen.org. You can imagine what type of article this is going to be, but basically they have just a bunch. It's all AI made, I'm clear. And so they have little categories. One of the categories is real world impact, how gender stereotypes harm everyone. And then it only talks about misogyny. This whole thing does not talk about any level of stereotypes against men. That's crazy. Let's just start with this. With more than 5.5 billion people online and nearly as many on social media, digital spaces have become central to how we learn and connect. Great intro. Very unique. Never heard that before. But, oh no, there's a twist. What's wrong with social media now? Thought it was a great place to how we connect. But alongside its benefits, the internet is also being used to spread hate, abuse, and misogyny. Okay, hate and abuse. And why specifically did you add misogyny? Because this is what the article is about. I get that. But misandry is also being spread. There's a lot of hate and abuse on the internet. This article is already invalid in the first few sentences because it doesn't discuss the whole thing. My stuff is going crazy. My lights are about to change, I bet. Okay, so it continues. Right after that, only saying the internet is being used to spread hate, abuse, and misogyny, and apparently that's it. Apparently not misandry, but whatever. One growing corner of the digital world is the manosphere. That's valid. A loose network of communities that claim to address men's struggles. So even in that, like when you're describing what it is, you're already discounting it. You're saying it claims to address men's struggles. I mean, it is addressing men's struggles, whether it's accurately. You obviously know where they're going, but I don't even think they go into the monetization and the manipulation aspect. They're just saying claim. Dating, fitness, or fatherhood, for example, but often promote harmful advice and attitudes. And that's true. There's a lot of places out there that do that for men and women. So I'm not against addressing that. So I want to be clear. I do think there are issues that need to be addressed about, let's say, the manosphere, just like the feminist anti-men's groups. They're all very extreme. However, saying that this is a loose network of communities and then acting like they're all and then stereotyping them into this thing is actually doing this dangerous stereotype. You point out how dangerous it is to stereotype genders, but then you only express how dangerous it is to stereotype women. There's nothing in this that talks about the other side. We need to address both sides, even in some way, if you're going to be taken seriously with this. So, you know, I could keep going, but it does say why the manosphere appeals to young men online. It has a little section about this that AI decided was they feel isolated. And according to UN Women Partner Research and this State of American Men 2023 report, 2/3 of young men feel no one really knows me. The truth is, it's normal to seek community in digital spaces. Sure, many of us build a sense of identity. Okay, blah, blah, blah. So they're talking. But young men often stumble across manosphere influencers while searching for tips on fitness, dating, or cryptocurrency. And many said they found the content entertaining or motivating. All right, so I'm seeing this as talking about very specifically, it sounds like a looks maxing kind of group, the dating, the pickup artists. This isn't talking even the strict red pill groups that are, or even men going their own ways, which I feel like there are a lot of MGTOWs that are very, and maybe they seem extreme because of the concept, but they're pretty open to having discussions about it and very intellectually intelligent. Like they're very intelligent. I have intelligent conversations, and they're not brainwashed. They've just made decisions about and I mean, I guess we all are brainwashed, right? Like in our own beliefs. Okay, so but I just mean like it's not like they're making illogical sense with what they're looking at. And guess what they're always telling me? This is what 80% of them talk about. Not just that women are mean, because that would be the next like 20%, but most of them talk about legal issues. And that's when we have to go back to the men's liberation. Wasn't in the 60s and 70s, wasn't the manosphere, wasn't the red pill movement originally started to talk about the injustices that were happening for custody battles against men, for divorce legalities against men in the 60s and 70s is when they started to rise up. There are many things. And then military. I believe I've been trying to do research about it because it's important. I need to understand where something comes from to address what the symptoms are, because the symptoms that we see are toxic internet. Yeah. Toxic femininity has caused that, and toxic masculinity, like all of it. In the 60s and 70s, this all started more of a change of legal systems. And if you look at even in feminism, when feminism originally started, it was a legal fight. Now it's a like getting everyone to think the exact same fight. So it's not even about the legal system so that people can live legally in a just way. No one seems to care about actually addressing these legal issues that these men are asking us to address over the last years. It's actually gotten worse and worse and worse. And I'm learning this. It also is saying that the UN Secretary General, like this is if you care about the UN. I'm just using the UN, so I'm not just only saying something in a conservative way, right? So the manosphere self-proclaimed lifestyle coaches have drawn young men in by claiming to teach personal responsibility. But ironically, instead of encouraging the self-exploration that can get to the heart of men's challenges, so it's acting like you have to be a woman and process things like a woman to have a meaningful understanding of life and whatever. That's what that is saying right there. But ironically, instead of encouraging self-exploration that can get to the heart of men's challenges, they suggest men are victims of society's misandry, meaning prejudice against men. So it continues over here. These groups are united by an opposition to feminism and misrepresent men as victims of the current social and political climate. How can you tell me that is an unbiased, factual, journalistic statement? It's not. That is, what? Misrepresent men as victims of the current social and political climate. They're literally telling anyone who feels like a victim that's a man that they're misrepresented by this. Like, I don't understand, because then we go down and it has this whole section about how does manosphere ideologies portray women, and they're not great. But you know what? Let's go through a list of how feminist ideologies portray men. There's bad, right? Oh, stupid light. Okay, my light changed. It changes at 5 p.m. just by the way. Real world impact, how gender stereotypes harm everyone. And then it goes into, like I said, everything about how stereotyping women is harmful. But it has nothing in these paragraphs for the man side. So, yeah. Thanks, guys. Thanks for your help. Okay. But I don't want to be just hating on progressive media. So Daily Wire, they send this newsletter, this email. I get it for free. This is not an ad. But they have Upstream. So it's like Daily Wire's new home for culture and lifestyle. Conservatives don't always engage with the broader culture. We're going to change that. That's like the concept of this Upstream on Daily Wire. So it's like more my type of stuff, because I don't like the politics as much, but I like the social commentary and the modern commentary. You know, that's why I do this vlog. It is a vlog, video log. I've aged myself to Vine years, but I don't care. This is like my diet. It's like self-indulgent. This is not for you. This is for me. My computer's about to die. I hope it doesn't, because I have these all open on here. I should charge it. Let me charge it. Why haven't I have done that in the first place? I don't know. This is a long one. I was thinking, and tell me what you think. So I have this live membership, and I only have one guy on it, which White Pill. You're awesome. White Pill Radio is his name, and he's my only live member, and I've been waiting to have maybe 10 so I can do lives, but I'm thinking I might start recording some of these sessions in my live membership and then just edit them out and maybe post them later, so they get like all this stuff in between. Super fun. It's not, but I do. Shout out to White Pill Radio. You're a pretty cool guy, and you're very, very intelligent, so I bet you'll have a lot to say about what I'm talking about that I don't even know, because I'm just learning about this. I really learned about the manosphere, November? Like whenever I started this channel. So, well, I started the channel a long time ago, but when I started posting on this channel, you know, because you have to have a channel on YouTube to watch or comment. Okay, so this is what Upstream sent to me in a newsletter. Now, this is when, and I like the newsletter, you know, I don't agree with everything. It's an opinion. It's Daily Wire opinion piece. And I'm fasting, just by the way. So if you're seeing me breathe heavily, this is day 3. So it's like, you know, I'm just a little weak and having to breathe. I feel like I'm breathing really heavy. Oh, well, I feel like I'm sweating. I don't know. I'm sweating right now. Anyway. Okay. Oh, the glitches. Everything is shutting off. It's back on. Okay, so this article by Gates Garcia, it's drawing tons of young men, but the reality doesn't match the pitch. The manosphere isn't masculinity, just like corn isn't sex. It's a good read. It's not free because you give them your email, but it is free. So like I like to say it's free, but you're giving them your email address. You're signing up to be able to see the full articles. But I do recommend it. So he's talking about how they watched the Inside the Manosphere, and it really is a derivative of corn. It promotes unnatural and unattainable standards. He really gets into who this is about, like the influencers that were on the Manosphere stuff. And honestly, he kind of picks up some of, he talks about the patheticness of these men and how Lewis was able to kind of showcase, I guess, the truth, where you see the shiny, what they're presenting, and then you kind of see a few of the stuff that you wouldn't see on their social media, and it's just like you see the cracks. And that's what this is all talking about, the cracks, and these people who are acting like they're above women, all this stuff, but they're actually, their business is relies on women and you know, using women. What it does address is that they're monetizing the attention economy. What it doesn't address is that's all they're monetizing, and they're going to move on when the attention goes elsewhere. It doesn't address the truth of why the people are following these men. It does talk about the addiction aspect. So I'm not saying this is awful, but I read it and I thought, after having talked to so many of y'all, like, I guess I get really more protective because you're humans that I've talked to, like you're real people, and I've heard some of your opinions. Whether I agree with all of them or not, it's irrelevant, because I understand that I don't have all the information. Whether it's on your life and why you've come to this, or even who you're listening to. And I've tried to listen to them, because again, not all of them are extreme. Not every feminist is extreme, you know, not every, but there is a root of why these things become extreme or can become extreme. And one of those is the social media attention seeking, monetization aspect. So I think that in this addressing the corn aspect of this whole manosphere it's valid. That's like all I can say. It's not talking about the manosphere. It's talking about the Manosphere documentary, but I just don't feel like it actually addresses that clearly enough. I mean, it may be talking about the Manosphere, but if it is, then it would be inaccurate because, again, remember the loose network. There's a lot of disconnecting people. Not everyone in the manosphere is looks maxing. Some of them are in the red pill groups that are more specific about legal issues. Some are in more support groups that are actually just supporting each other through some of these actual real life issues that they're having, that they are being victimized in. So there really is such a wide range that I feel like this article was good if it was only about the documentary. And even then it was missing some stuff because it really didn't go into Louis Theroux and what we know about him and his ideas. There's so much to understanding and commenting on something than just that's good or that's not. And I just feel like the manosphere is this made up kind of term now to put every man who isn't a feminist into that box. That's what I feel like is happening. It's going to that direction. This is just the first article that got me into the spiral of how people are actually talking about this when I'm actually talking to men who are currently living this lifestyle, and most of the men I'm talking to aren't the ones bashing their face, doing the, what is it when you hit on your cheekbones over and over, you're chiseling your jaws. There are people who are doing that are in what people are calling this group, and that's where I get protective of this. I think it matters to differentiate. So Gaze Garcia came out with this, and this was March 22nd. So I kind of wanted to see like how this came about because it seemed like Daily Wire had a few articles. And so actually I looked, and the first article that I was noticing about it was Ben Shapiro on March 19th. That's my birthday. Yeah, I don't know why that was so exciting. Sometimes I see the date March 19th and I'm like I'm an adult. I don't know. I didn't even like do anything on my birthday, but apparently I was excited about that. I have no idea how that happened, like where that came from. Intellectual corn for morons. So the definition of true manhood is to love, protect, cherish, defend, and provide for your wife and for your family. Obviously, this is an opinion piece. It's very clearly an opinion piece. It's marked as an opinion piece. It's very good. But there are men who want to love, protect, cherish, defend, and provide for a wife and family that just don't want to do it in the U.S. anymore, right? Some of them, there's a whole group of men who are just going to places that have maybe more traditional gender values for their families and roles for men and traditional family ideals, and that's where they're going to those countries for that. So that's a whole other group. Ben, he does differentiate, and he also goes into a bit of why. I do think his is a very specific point, and he gets it across. This is about how the monetizing, the attention marketing grift is done. He talks about how they act, what they do, how they trick people in. It's the cult aspect of it and the cult environment. Again, though, the manosphere, it's just, it really lacks understanding the depth, but it does understand how someone's getting manipulated into more extreme concepts within this group. So, okay, I found the validity in all of these articles, even the Women's UN one. You know, it's their opinion. They have some valid points in there, but they're missing also a big section of it, and also just understanding the root. Like, if we can't understand a root, we can't address the symptoms. And thinking that men are just inaccurately processing because they're not processing like women, and that's why they're joining the manosphere, that is stupid. That's just not understanding biology. Men are different. We process differently than men. So to put them in that box is just ludicrous, in my opinion. So last article was when I was like, yes, okay, we're getting somewhere. This is by Jonathan Alpert. The real reason young men are flocking to the manosphere. Why are millions of young men looking to the manosphere for guidance in the first place? April 3rd. Thank you. Because I was really like in a seething place. Even conservatives that I might agree with more of their stuff, they're being the extremist as well. We do it. We all do it. On every side we get extreme. Like that's just, people compartmentalize, and we have to pull ourselves back every time we do it. It's just a natural tendency. It's not the end of the world. We just have to address when we're doing it. This one does directly talk about Louis Theroux inside the manosphere. And it says Netflix Louis Theroux inside the manosphere wants viewers to fear the men it puts on screen. What it never seriously asks is why millions of young men are looking there for guidance in the first place. I was like, yes, because it actually described why I was so frustrated with every article. on the left, on the right. No one was talking about this. The root. Why is this happening? And what does that mean for our future? Where is this going? And what can we do about it? And I just feel like it didn't discuss it, and it missed the mark on that. But I do think maybe because, I don't know, I was watching Trust Me. I do highly recommend that. I love documentaries, by the way. I will watch most of them. I was watching Trust Me, and I think it came out recently. And it's so well done. I don't know why. I was hooked initially from the beginning, and I don't even understand. I usually avoid the FLDS stories. I have the facts, and I don't want to hear op-eds about them. I don't watch commentaries about them like I do with other types of things. But what I'm bringing that up for is because this woman, Christine, who's the documentary creator, the documentarian, she spent years, and she was in a legal, like working with the FBI on it, years filming and getting this documentary ready. I don't see that happening with this Louis Theroux inside the manosphere. And I think that is the detriment to this, because this isn't an easy topic. There was a documentary a few years ago about social media and about what it's doing to our children, and it was, I feel, really well done. It was a bit fear-mongering, and that was kind of the goal, but it had valid facts and things that we really should think about. I love documentaries. I think it's important to see all the points of view and how they're presented. Storytelling is so much fun. I'm trying to get better at it. But anyway, that's why I was really annoyed as I was watching the manosphere. I couldn't put my finger on it, because is this how people are commenting on this? Because I felt like it was just so lacking. It didn't have a point of view. Unless the point of view was these men are actually pretty pathetic. And it's weird that that's what came across. And I don't know if someone who follows these men watched that and they don't get the same. I felt like it was a missed opportunity, because a lot of people were going to watch this, and what it came out with was just anti-man propaganda, anti-masculinity propaganda. It was a feminist thing. That, in my opinion, that's what I got from it. And I felt like it could have been more. And a lot of times Louis Theroux does do more with it, and so I felt disappointed. But I felt like this article by Jonathan Alpert, he talks about spend 5 minutes online and the shift is obvious. Podcasts about discipline and self-mastery command enormous audiences, and gym routines now double as moral philosophy. Young men trade advice on confidence, money, dating, ambition, and purpose with an urgency that feels almost existential. Much of it is crude. In my experience, what I've seen, it does seem like that. Some of it is wrong and openly corrosive. It says some, but see, it says some. It's not saying all of it. Yeah, millions keep watching. For a reason, elite culture still resists admitting. And I love that he's addressing. I'm not saying I understand or agree with all of it. I just don't even know all of it. That's the point. I don't, there's so much, it's like scratching the surface. Like when I make any red pill comment, I get so many people giving me lessons or telling me about it, giving me articles, things to look into further about like where this started, about the women and the men who started to cause these things to happen. Seeing like the really hardcore feminists who were putting out anti-male books, man-hating books, started to spread that. So I'm getting this whole spectrum of people inside and actually trying to hear. And that's what I thought about that Trust Me documentary. She was getting inside. She was an informant for the FBI, but she was relating to them. She was trying to listen to them. And parts of it she understood, because she also came from an FLDS environment or a cult. She had a false prophet at one point. It's just interesting when you see someone put a documentary together, still with bias, but you can see they're trying to understand this people's point of view. And trying not to just villainize them, even though what is happening is criminal and villainous, and they understand this. So he continues, for years, young men have been told what not to be, especially by women, while almost no one has been willing to say what they should become. And that vacuum became a market for people to prey on. So we have taught an entire generation of young men how to analyze their emotions, but not what to do with their lives. Because we're kicking men out of households. They're not having fathers. They're being raised by women who are teaching them how to process things like women. And we don't know how to process things like men. We don't know how they're supposed to process. They have to process things differently. Biologically, our brains are working differently. Just like there's a difference between each person and how they function and process, there's a gender difference. And to not understand that and just teach men how to process emotions but not how to live, that's a problem. And I believe that women were taught how to live and not how to process emotions. So, there was the opposites, but that's the point. The extremes were problematic. And this is what this is talking about. It's talking about the market vacuum. Young man recently spent nearly an entire session describing, with impressive self-awareness, why he felt stuck, fear of failure, fear of judgment, and fear of choosing the wrong path. He could name every feeling in detail. What he couldn't name was what he actually wanted. The problem was not a lack of insight, it was the absence of aim. And when he said this, I got emotional because I feel like I was taught the 90s feminism, right? And to the early 2000s and 80s, 90s, early 2000s. That was the feminism I grew up in. And it was teaching you all of this stuff. You could do anything. You could be anything. You can do. But it never taught you how. It said, build your life, build your finances before you have a family, because men might get older and then they tend to leave you. Well, some men do. Some women do. But that was how I was taught. I was taught stereotypes about men that made me feel like I had to be fully financially stable. Now, this was in my early 20s. By that time, I was starting to come out of the liberal mindset and starting to think for myself. And so I was starting to change a little bit. But yeah, I was seeing that. I got very sick around that time as well. I was already sick in high school, but it got really bad. So there's a lot of stuff in my life that was causing me to not follow that path of getting married and having kids that I started to want. Late 20s is when it actually hit me, and that was when biology happened, when I stopped listening to everyone and what they were telling me, and I started listening to what my body wanted. And I remember quitting my job, very successful job at a nationally syndicated morning radio show. I was executive producer for 12 years, and we were very successful. We did very well, and I ended up quitting because I spent my life helping someone follow their dreams, helping the host do his life goal. I didn't go into radio thinking I'm going to be a producer. I was an intern. I was taking easy hours, and then I turned into a producer, and then I turned into executive producer. I just didn't leave. But that was never a dream. So I spent all of my 20s helping this guy and this group follow their dreams to monetize his dream. And he's doing great. And I bless them, I love them very much. But I realized I've been spending 10 years working. I'm successful. I have stability. I have, obviously, we have won awards. And I wasn't happy. I had a boyfriend, but I wasn't fulfilled. I can't explain it because I wasn't just crying all day. There was it was missing. It wasn't fulfilled. I can't put my finger on it. So I quit. I had everything that I thought I was supposed to want, and I was sick and lonely. So I quit and I moved to New York. And that was when I guess I really started to embrace outside of entertainment mainstream, which was telling you all of those tropes. I started to embrace those feelings that I had been having for a while of wanting to get married and have kids. When I was little, I'm like a preteen declaring I'm never going to get married. This is what entertainment did. This is what feminism did. And it did it to me. I did fall in. There was a trap, and I got caught in it. And that's why I'm talking about this, because when this article actually is addressing, this is what we need to be writing articles about. This is what we need to be writing opinion pieces about. This is what we need. Yes, I'm going to do a lot of videos about entertainment because it's talk about what you know. I produce. I've worked in entertainment for so many years that's where my knowledge really is, my knowledge base, online, social media, production, and entertainment. So TV, movies, internet, websites, content development for the last 30 years. And I know this is annoying me. It's annoying me that I'm keep changing. I should have put my hair up. This is why I put my hair up. Because I cut my own hair. Just like side story. See, this is where the lives, like, I'm not gonna cut this out of the video. You're just gonna see this. This is why you see so many choppy edits in my videos, because I do tangents like this, and that's fine. It's a vlog, self-indulgent. I just feel like talking. So anyway, I didn't have an aim. I left the morning show because I had spent so long helping someone else follow their dreams. I didn't know what my dreams were. I didn't know what I wanted. My entire time in New York, I spent 10 years in New York. I still didn't know. It's hard knowing how to do it, to work hard, do this, do that, but what? I didn't have an aim. I didn't have a goal. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I didn't have any goals that I had ever established other than being financially stable. And I feel like that's what this manosphere is also creating. And so it's filling a void, but it's also creating that same void. Because once you get looks maxed, what's next? What's your aim? And I feel like there's manosphere groups that actually do develop support. And so now I think like this whole thing, the manosphere is just a new buzzword term that is insulting and stereotyping a whole community that came about for actual reasons. Not because they're all right, but because they exist and real humans are choosing these paths. And we cannot say because we are outside and looking in and being intellectual about it that we're above their choices, that we know something better than them. My beliefs aren't better than yours. I think that what I believe is true, right? I'm a Christian. I believe that's the truth. Does it mean that I'm better than you because you might not believe that? No. And it doesn't guarantee I'm right? No, I think I'm right. We're all gonna find out someday. I'm setting my life on that. And so when I actually started to have an aim, my aim became stop being so selfish and putting other people first. That's what I chose as my life goal. And I chose that kind of in the end when I started to be healed and I was healthy again and I was just starting to get clarity. And I just was like, this, no matter what I do in my life, no matter what I'm doing in my day, every single action I do, I can do this. That's aim. That's direction. That's focus. And it's really changed my life. So whether your aim, wherever yours comes from, I do think aim is so useful. I was also watching a documentary, crazy person, Caterpillar. Now this is old, slightly older, I think 3 years old. It is about the ocular the iris color changing, your eye color changing, and you could see this, like he was lacking something, this attractive man. He wasn't unattractive, and you're watching the reason that this body dysmorphia comes, or body dysphoria, depending on when you learned about it. I learned about it, I think, in early 2000s when I was studying neurobiopsychology. I was studying to have my PhD when I was in college. I just quit to do radio. My parents weren't happy, but whatever. But I learned about body dysmorphia. So it seems like now they call it dysphoria. Same with diagnosing, say, a manic depressive versus a bipolar. They've just changed what they call it over the years. Now, instead of you get migraines, you have migraine. I think it's a syndrome. Anyway, this article continues and it talks about young men today are caught in a double bind, show ambition and risk being labeled toxic, hold back and risk becoming invisible, assertiveness is suspect, but passivity is miserable. The result is paralysis followed by backlash. What is often dismissed as bro culture did not create this confusion. It recognized it early and built an industry around it. This to me was like, yes, and this is what I really should have just read this article, and this video would have been 5 minutes long. I think this is an important way to look at all of this. We have to recognize that what we're seeing online is a symptom of something, and that's what all of my videos are about, the root. And if we can recognize the root cause, can we address the roots and make steps to change and be better? Anyway, I really want to know your guys' thoughts, what you've been seeing, and really just enlightenment on how you feel, why you're following these certain areas, and what areas of manosphere you agree with or don't. I want to understand this better than what these documentaries and articles, and they're very short-sighted. I want to hear from people who are there and then have an informed understanding. So please comment, like, subscribe.
Let's go.